Fast Food Forward by Dr. Sharad Vardhe from the forthcoming book Peeping at America. I hop, she shouted. Why? What's wrong? Scarily, I blurted. Inside the SUV, gliding at 75 miles per hour, I was peacefully dozing when the screaming of my sweet 16 neighbor in the back seat woke me up abruptly. I looked around impulsively for fire around her. There was none. I hop! Again she cried and pointed her index finger in the approximate direction of the North Pole. I could not figure out what inspired a desire in her to jump off a running vehicle. Then her sympathetic brother in the front seat revealed that she had spotted a restaurant by that name. I hop? Is that the name of a cafe? Americans stump me with their unconventional creativity. Thank God it's Friday, is the name given to a chain of eateries. Then why not I hop? But why hop? I have no problem accepting a simple I eat or an honest I gobble for a gastronomic facility. But stretching my imagination howsoever far, I could not understand what hopping had to do with eating. Probably you need to hop a lot to digest the huge portions they serve in the American food joints. The young intellectual born in America clarified IHOP is the short form of International House of Pancakes, IHOP. He could not believe that people of his father's age could be so dumb as to have never bumped into an IHOP someplace in the entire world. By that, he actually meant the entire North America. We will breakfast in IHOP, my neighbor declared. As it dawned on me later, IHOP serves breakfast whatever time of the day or most of the night you wish to break your fast. It gives omelets of a large variety along with pancakes as accompaniment. You select chocolate chip pancakes or banana nut pancakes or buttermilk pancakes or fruit top pancakes. IHOP pancakes are great in taste. IHOP omelets are greater in size. If you could finish the entire serving, which a non American like me could do only after fasting at least for 12 hours, you would not demand even a pretzel in the next 12 hours. My American car mates knew my gastronomic capacity. They ordered one for each of them and one to be shared between me and the second daughter, aged 10 years. Actually, she was 7 but looked 10. We shared in 30-70 ratio. In that order. Before I ate one third, she had swallowed the rest and had ordered an additional side dish of assortment of strawberry, blueberry, and cinnamon apple pancakes. Americans are great eaters. Traditionally, I read somewhere that even in the 19th century, servings in the American homes used to be far bigger than those on the continent. This practice had to seep into the American restaurants. It is one of those traditions that are followed dogmatically till date. Thus, an American restaurant, I get a choice of 8-ounce, that is half pound Big Mac, a bigger 10-ounce double quarter pounder with extra cheese, 15-ounce, that is half a kilogram chicken breast strips, one footer sandwich, large 14 inches pizza, and chocolate triple thick shake in 32-ounce cup, almost 1 liter. Any one of these items can guarantee my survival for a whole day. Talking about world gastronomic competition, only the Chinese can pose a tough competition to the Americans. at least in frequency, if not in quantity. The most visible activity in Pan Pacific neighborhood is eating. They talk quite a lot, almost incessantly. They also eat incessantly. It is amazing to see such a total multipurpose capacity utilization of a human organ called the mouth. Whenever, wherever they are, and whatever else they are doing, principally at that time, eating at all times of the day and night is an involuntary act. Too much food must make one big. Accordingly, the Americans grow tall and puff out in three dimensions. Height beyond 6 feet and weight beyond 250 pounds is probably the national average. Asian immigrants pull it down, and the children born in the US push it up. So it is not the so called Americans alone, but the Asians from Turkey to Japan and all the Hispanics put on weight in America year after year, generation after generation. At one of the dinners hosted in my honor, I mistook the hostess's daughter for the hostess's sister. At one stroke, I pleased the hostess and annoyed the daughter. Later during the evening, the lady served me extra vanilla shake, which I could not finish because someone, most probably her daughter, had mixed a ton of salt in it. In that get together, as in several others throughout, I saw perfectly normal parents escorted by perfectly fat children born and brought up in the US. No wonder, even pet cats in the US are unusually obese. America provides some massive infrastructure to promote obesity. It has American Italian, American Mexican, American Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai, Indian, etc. food outlets in abundant numbers. And of course, there are the American junk food and drink giants. So the inhabitants of the land of plenty have a mouth-watering choice of eateries. Oh my God. With so many around, how on earth can the Americans succeed in avoiding them? Actually, they don't. They just don't. And end up collecting loads of fat, calories, cholesterol, triglycerides that their all automatic lifestyle cannot burn in a century. Talking about cold liquids, the American population is divided into three groups: those who gulp Coke, those who swallow Pepsi, and the infinitesimal small minority of the rest. Don't bother about the rest. They don't contribute to the GDP. I drink water. Fuzzy drink makers don't like people like me. There was a time in the past when a request for water baffled American waitresses. They used to direct me to the washroom area or bring water from a faucet in a tiny shot glass with a complimentary aspirin. Days have changed, and the eating houses now recognize water as a perfectly legitimate drink for nuts like me. Since servings ought to be gigantic, water arrives in a 32-ounce tumbler, almost 1 liter. It comes essentially in three flavors: water with plenty of ice, water with ice, and iced water with extra ice. Ice troubles my throat. So once I asked for plain water. This term, plain water, was beyond the vocabulary of the American sweetie serving our table. I added to her confusion by describing the desired temperature of my thirst quencher. Celsius is not yet American. Fahrenheit was the name of the documentary condemning George Bush Jr. in the wake of 9/11. My host rescued her by calling it warm, flat water. and explained to me that flat water is still water. She readily took away my iced water glass, pushed it in a microwave oven, and brought the almost boiling liquid in a coffee mug, along with lukewarm clam chowder soup. Since then, I carry a water bottle from my host's home, giving his children yet another reason to condemn their father's taste in selection of friends. Idiot as I am, wandering in this land of plenty, I have a few questions. First, about tea, my drinking delight. I am a tea lover. Therefore, I drink coffee in the US. America offers truly enormous choice to please all palates. Then why the restaurants do not offer good, proper tea? Why only coffee? Predominantly coffee houses like Starbucks offer at least 20 varieties of hot and cold coffees in every outlet, and all are excellent. But in the early mornings and late afternoons, plenty of people like me, colonial or otherwise Asian, crave for a cup of proper tea made properly. Tea drinking is a passion, tea making is an art. The cardinal principle is that tea from tea bag is not real tea. That is a tea like fake concoction. Convenience is its only virtue. The land of plenty is also the birthplace of innovation for convenience. Dipping a tea bag in a hot water and adding finely ground sweetener from a sachet and cold cream or cold whitener from another sachet is undoubtedly the fastest process of making tea devoid of the hassles of the conventional procedure. But the output fails to please those who even vaguely understand good tea. I cannot imagine tea without a kettle, sugar pot with sugar granules, milk pot with hot liquid milk, spoon, and snow white, gold embossed, round shaped tea cup, and yes, a matching saucer. Serving tea in a mug is a crime. Be it in England, Russia, or any Asian country, tea making has always been a mini ceremony. Half the taste of tea is in its making. I drink coffee in America only because I cannot stomach the insult meted out to this majestic concept, nor can I stomach the insipid taste of the resultant potion. Secondly, why the smart, bright, and well informed men and women in the US patronize fast food joints so very regularly to gobble greasy, fatty, monotonous, and overcooked food, and then wash it down with aerated chilled waters full of dissolved sugar and harmful chemicals. 10 things are wrong in doing this. I'm astonished that they know all the 10 and possibly a few more from some latest research findings. Yet, logic, rational, and science do not prevail among those who are known in the world for their penchant for everything scientific. Finally, is slow food the antonym for fast food? Recently, a wine matured Italian colleague bumped into me in the US. He did what an Italian does on spotting a friend. He hugged me, kissed me on both cheeks, and invited me to wine and dine. I wonder why Italian men are so warm and Italian women so cold. Anyways, I suggested eating pizza. He almost killed me. Mamma mia, are you crazy? He shouted at me. It did not bother me a bit because I was used to his yelling at every human, cat, and wife. I mean, his wife. He explained that pizza was not served in any honorable Italian restaurant in Italy. In the US also, I was, as always, unsure of the American methods of adopting culinary practices of other societies. Every place, he declared authoritatively, pizza is an American fast food. Even in Italy, the American tourists eat it. We will eat Italian slow food and push it down with correct wines. He used a plural for wine, which I noticed joyfully as an indicator of a fine dine experience ahead. He explained, you must know that good food is essentially slow food, freshly cooked, elegantly served, and leisurely chewed with appropriate wines. That is a real fine dining. I asked, how much leisurely? He clarified, 3 hours at least. Would the fast Americans leading fast life ever muster enough courage to demand from themselves a much desired leisure to enjoy slow food? I wonder. Thank you.